Welcome to the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship, and today's action comes from deep in the Wiltshire countryside at Castle Combe. James Coleman makes a return back to the series, having missed a few races with car trouble, and the important thing is he is on pace. 0.002 of a second behind Adam Southgate in qualifying is going to make this race very exciting. To take you through all of the action, it's over to our commentator, Jake Sanson.
Let's talk you through the grid for the first race here at Castle Combe. Adam Southgate and James Coleman on the front row from Gary Lawrence and Kevin Molyneux. Third row is Nick Hull and Gary Goodwin from Matthew Harris and Andrew Baker. And the 924 battle will be a two-man war, Gavin Johnson versus Hugh Pert. And that is also for the lead in the championship in that class. Plenty of onboard cameras for this first race with Goodwin, with Kevin Molyneux second in the championship. Matthew Harris will carry an onboard camera as well, as will Gary Goodwin. So plenty of great racing to come here, and James Coleman, the 00, Dick Dastardly himself, will be on our onboard cameras, as well as Nick Hull in the number 4, the Union Jack on his car, and away we go at Castle Combe, the first of 3 races. It's a cracking start from the front of the field from the leaders as they charge forward down towards Folly. They go through the flat-out right-hander, and then they will charge towards Avon Rise. On board with Nick Hull. That's Kevin Molyneux on the left-hand side. Gary Lawrence going up the inside, a cracking start. Oh, and a little bit of a rub between Southgate and Coleman. Goodness me, that was very nearly a massive accident in the quarry. And now Coleman's sideways trying to come through. Gary Lawrence has shot past both of them. And Molyneux's to our right side, coming and going to third position. Brilliant start to the race, and that has completely shuffled the order. Gary Lawrence is your race leader then from Southgate, Molyneux and Coleman, with Nick Hull in 4th position in front of Gary Goodwin. Then it is left for Harris and Baker to scrap amongst the spoils, with Gavin Johnson and Hugh Pert battling away with 924 honours. James Coleman trying to move his way up into 3rd position once more as Adam Southgate charges after the new race leader Gary Lawrence. What an incredible start, but how close were Southgate and Coleman to absolute disaster as Nick Hull goes into Bobby's right on the back of James Coleman. They go back on the power and up towards Camp Corner at the end of a very exciting first lap here in the first of 3 races in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. No pit stop race this time. That was an experiment at Rockingham, but there's still going to be a reverse grid race as Coleman again tries up the inside of Kevin Molyneux. Hasn't been able to make the switch. Coleman decides to sell in the dummy as they come up towards Folly. Can he stand on the throttle? Molyneux trying to squeeze in there to the inside line as they go over Avon Rise, and here comes Nick Hull for an opportunity. Coleman's going to get through, no problem at all. Nick Hull's going to use that same bit of gap to come through. Oh, and Molyneux's gone across. Molyneux comes across and shuts the door on Nick Hull. Oh, Nick Hull has hit him. Now, I think that was actually more to do with the fact that Molyneux came off the throttle and Nick Hull had nowhere to go. Now, did he miss a gear or was that intentional? That is a very interesting state of affairs. There's been some discussion off circuit about driving standards, and the stewards have said they're going to be a lot stricter for incidents as Southgate moves up the inside of Lawrence to take the lead. So Lawrence is no longer your race leader. Adam Southgate has come through. Now, I'd really like to see a replay of that incident between Molyneux and Nick Hull. It will clear a few things up as James Coleman now gets onto the back of the 93 of Gary Lawrence to try and surge into 2nd position. So it's Southgate leading, Lawrence 2nd, Coleman is 3rd, Molyneux is 4th, and Goodwin is in 5th position. Nick Hull is recovering after his spin, but I'm not too sure that's as clear-cut as we first thought it was. I'm wondering now, trying to play that incident back in my head, because Nick Hull went for the gap on the inside at Quarry. Molyneux turned in. Whether he knew Nick Hull was there or not is not up for debate, but he certainly bashed into the side of him as they came through the corner. And then it seemed as if Hull drove into the back of Molyneux, but I wonder if that's more to do with gamesmanship than it is to do with driving. Here it is again. So Coleman's already got through Molyneux. Hull up the inside, shuts the door, Kevin Molyneux, slides out sideways. Hull comes back to the inside line. And look, it's as if Molyneux just eases off the gas and Nick Cole has nowhere to go but into him. That is a very strange place to have an accident. Let's have a look. Hull up the inside of Molyneux. Molyneux turns in, bang! And now Nick Cole thinks, okay, I'll back out of it and have another go. But suddenly Molyneux gets off the power. Look, Hull has gone into the back of him. There's no way of Nick Cole being blamed for that one. That's normally a part of the circuit where you're up on the acceleration. Now, the stewards are going to need to have a look at that and make a judgment. Well, rather them than me, as Gavin Johnson runs in front of Hugh Pert as they battle away for position. But that's a very tough incident to call. From the outset, it looks as if Nick Cole's gone into the back of Kevin Molyneux and spun it, but I think there's more to it than that. Hugh Pert chasing after Gavin Johnson as these two battle not just for the lead in the 924 class, but also for the championship lead. And it's these two who are left to scrap over it. Now, here's the battle for second place. This is Gary Lawrence being chased down by James Coleman. It's great to see James out there after he missed all 3 races at Rockingham. The Friday testing, his engine went and the head gasket basically blew its top. So that meant he missed the whole weekend, and that is his chances of the championship well and truly destroyed. However, he is still a racer. He will not give up, and he is going to continue to fight for as many victories this season as he can get. But Gary Lawrence is right up on pace here at Castle Combe as they come down towards Tower. This is an absolutely terrific run for Gary Lawrence. They're in second position, briefly, of course, in the lead. They come out of Tower, up towards Bobby's. We're on board with James Coleman, the 00. I wonder if he still carries Muttley strapped to the roll cage. I know he used to in previous seasons. Haven't seen his car up close for a while, but there's so many bits and pieces going on in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. Into the final turn at Camp, and then back over the start-finish straight, powering through. Adam Southgate leads the way, but certainly it is nowhere near as dominant a margin as it has been in previous weekends. But Adam Southgate has won every single race this year except one. That man, James Coleman, that we're riding on board with, is the man who's taken a win off him, and he did it back at Knock Hill. So Gary Lawrence right on the back of Adam Southgate once again, trying to make a move for the lead. Southgate's having to move across to defend. That's okay because he's made one clear move, but Lawrence is going to try and come through up the inside anyway, and he's got there. Lawrence steps out the back end of the car slides, and now Coleman's going to get round the outside of both of them. Coleman takes the lead. Oh, brilliant racing at Castle Combe. Superb from James Coleman round the outside of Southgate. He saw an opportunity, realised the gap was there, and then went, brilliant, this is my moment. James Coleman takes the lead at Castle Combe as they go out of Tower up towards Bobby's, and now Southgate is swarming all over the back of Coleman. Now Southgate really can start sweating. He knows that James Coleman can take victories off him. He did it back at Knock Hill. Now he wants to make sure his winning streak continues. So Southgate has another look as they come up to Camp Corner. Lawrence is going to try and throw it up the inside of Southgate. That's a late lunge, but he's through. Brilliant move from Gary Lawrence. Whoops, and Matthew Harris has gone over the grass there. So he needs to get back on track pretty sharpish. He has now done so. In the background, Kevin Molyneux dropping to 4th, a long way back off these 3. And Gary Goodwin there in 5th. What a spectacular battle this is turning out to be out front. James Coleman leads the way now from Gary Lawrence and Adam Southgate, and it looks like it's going to be these 3 duking it out for the rest of the race. This is easily the most exciting encounter we have seen in the championship in 2018. Coleman, Lawrence, Southgate, line astern as they go through the S's and up towards Old Paddock Bend. That's the move James Coleman pulled. That's the location of his move on Adam Southgate a lap ago. And that's problems for the 99 of Matthew Harris. Unfortunately, I guess that's the reason he went off. He had some mechanical problems, so he is pulling into the pits to retire as Gavin Johnson continues to lead the race in the 924 class in front of Hugh Pert, and he's pulling out a gap. Now, he could really do with a couple of victories because he wants to get that championship deficit down to Hugh Pert after some mechanical problems at the start of the season. What a beautiful sight for James Coleman. A clear track in front of him as he comes up towards Camp Corner. Gary Lawrence now is charging after him, though. I'll tell you what, Gary Lawrence has got a car underneath him that can win this. He is pushing incredibly hard. He seems to suit the Castle Combe Circuit very well indeed. Is one of them trailing smoke? I'm wondering if one of those two up front is actually trailing some smoke. It might be Coleman, actually. He's got some smoke coming off the back of the car. Now, if that's an oil leak, then that's really going to cause him a problem as Gary Lawrence skids around behind him, trying to get into the lead of the race. So James Coleman leading the way. There definitely seems to be some kind of smoke coming off the back of the car. Now, whether that's just normal, if the engine's running at a particular temperature and it just happens to be trailing smoke, then that's all right. But if that's a terminal problem, then that really is going to hamper James Coleman's weekend. He needs to bounce back with a win here after missing all 3 races at Rockingham. As Southgate goes for a late lunge on Lawrence, that's enough to let Gary know that he's there. No major move into Tower Corner on that occasion, though. They come up towards Bobby's. Right, left, plenty of curb on the way through both turns. There's Nick Hull, so he has got going again. But I wonder if he'll be a little bit aggrieved about that incident with Kevin Molyneux on the first lap. We'll have to look into that one a bit later, I guess. Up towards camp. James Coleman, the 00 leads the way. Second position, Gary Lawrence has got Adam Southgate swarming all over the back of him, and Southgate's got a great run out of camp as they go through Folly. They will go up and over Avon Rice. Southgate is side by side with Gary Lawrence. Lawrence is doing exactly what he needs to do, squeezing Southgate, trying to intimidate him, and that's a perfect bit of defence from Gary Lawrence. This is one of the scariest parts of British motorsport. There's the run to Quarry. Many motor racing seasons have ended at Quarry Corner, not to do with injury, I should point out, but to do with mechanical problems or difficulties with the car when they've gone off at that point and caused themselves too much damage. So that is a very nasty point of the circuit as they come through the S's and up towards Old Paddock Bend, and Southgate's looking very racy on the back of Gary Lawrence now. Has he got a chance? He's going to try and dart across to the right side of the circuit. Dive for that inside line in the hope that Lawrence will overcook it. Southgate very nearly overcooks it. Stands on the brakes as James Coleman laps Hugh Pert. Lawrence is going to take that opportunity and dive up the inside. Southgate is going to get through as well. Hugh Pert suddenly realises they're there and lets them through. And that's a bit of a headache for Adam Southgate. The gap has opened up a little bit between himself and Gary Lawrence. Still a long way to go in this race, though. So as far as Southgate is concerned, it's not done yet, but that's definitely going to cause him a bit of a headache. They come out of Camp Corner, back over the start-finish line once again. Oh, and that's Nick Hull. Nick Hull with problems. Now, was that because of the incident? So, Nick Hull pulling off the race circuit, and unfortunately, his weekend has not started in great form. So, that's a shame for the Union flag number 4. Hopefully, he'll be back in race 2. James Coleman leading the way. Gary Lawrence in... Good win out of the final turn. That's definitely the move of his season to get himself into a podium-paying position. Now Molyneux hasn't given up. Dolly Molly is pushing here in a move towards 3rd position. Oh, James Coleman's car looking so forlorn and woeful at the side of the circuit there. Retired from the lead, James Coleman. What does he need to do to catch a break in 2018? Well, this man's had a good run in the last few weekends, Kevin Molyneux. Currently in 4th position, chasing after Gary Goodwin. But I gather that he is already racing under fire here at Castle Combe for that little tussle with Nick Hull on the 2nd lap, or 3rd lap of the race, I should say. So Molyneux, for the moment, is chasing after the podium as he closes in on Gary Goodwin. Goodwin in 3rd, Molyneux in 4th. To say some pretty exciting racing here this weekend. Pre-race, the officials did say they were going to be a little bit stricter when it came to driving standards, as there had been apparently, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but according to a couple of the people at the side of the circuit, there have been a few incidents over the course of the year that have been questionable. So the driving standards are being very heavily scrutinized for the remainder of the season, and I think that's a very decent decision, actually, because you've got to remember that these guys are racing as a hobby. This is a bit like golf for them, only faster and much more exciting, and you don't want your entire season ruined by a couple of silly petty incidents when they could have been snapped out and penalised to avoid that kind of thing happening again. And this is the difficulty with club racing. The drivers are very skilled racing drivers, but because it's their hobby, because they're not doing it as a profession, they obviously have to make sure that they are A, safe, and B, able to complete a season on budget without silly things cropping up through the course of the season. So I think that's a fair call, and it's a good decision to make sure that everybody is playing fair and square. Gary Goodwin is 3rd position, and he's got there on pure merit. This is what it's like riding on board with the splitter of the car as they go into Bobby's. Plenty of curb on the way in and on the way out as Gary Goodwin makes his way up towards Camp Corner. That's a great camera view. It's a shame we don't have it more often in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship paddock. But Gary Goodwin looking good for third position at the moment as he continues to run in front of Dolly Molly, the party animal of the championship. Kevin Molyneux, who's had a great run in the last few races, took a pair of second places at Rockingham and is currently second in the championship standings. And it looks likely, if James Coleman is out of the first race, looks fairly likely to leave it there as well, with second place intact. But with Coleman out, Matthew Harris is out. I'm trying to think who else. Nick Hull is obviously out of the race. They're dropping like flies in this Boxton category. We're on board with Molyneux, chasing after Goodwin once again. That man, James Coleman, clearly out of the race. And once the race leader, every single lap we watch these guys come around. It's a constant reminder, almost, James Coleman sitting there in the background. I could have won this. I should have won this. You could just about make out Nick Hull's car there to the right-hand side of the screen when they come through at the right angle as well. As Nick Hull pulled off just after Old Paddock Bend. As they go through Tower, Kevin Molyneux still pushing hard, trying to close in on Gary Goodwin, but at the moment it looks to me as though third place is pretty much sealed. It's all about whether Gary Goodwin makes a mistake or not. And for now, it looks pretty much sorted as they continue to run around together in third and fourth position. And if I do my math properly, I think that's going to be Gary Goodwin's first visit to the podium if he stays where he is in 2018, and he will thoroughly have earned it. They come down over the start-finish straight once again, through Folly, the right-hander, and then back over Avon Rise. This is one of the toughest circuits in Great Britain. Definitely very underrated. I've been coming here for a few years now, and it's a wonderful, wonderful old-school circuit. Only a couple of chicanes added in the late 90s after a very tragic accident here that took place in 1997, where one of the drivers very sadly lost their life. So the changes were made to the circuit to compensate for the speed. Adam Southgate has dealt with it very well indeed and is leading the way here. Absolutely in charge of this one. Gary Lawrence is still there, by the way. You just saw him going through the chicane there in second position, so he's got this one pretty much in command for second place. But a very quick lap here at Castle Combe as we come into the closing stages of this race, and Adam Southgate has definitely had to fight for this one. He's had some dominant races in 2018. Rockingham was a very important case study into his championship assault. But here today at Castle Combe, he's really had to sit up and go for it because he's had two drivers to battle with, James Coleman and Gary Lawrence. He really had to work hard in the opening stages. Kevin Molyneux and Nick Hull were very much in there in the first part of the race as well. So from Adam Southgate's point of view, he's really had to work for this. He's not been in a position of comfort for much of this race at all, as he goes into the S's, through the right, through the left, and then back out to Old Paddock Bend. And even he is still struggling. The back end steps out big time there for Adam Southgate. He's had to work incredibly hard here at Castle Combe. Let's not forget, he was only 0.02 of a second faster than James Coleman in qualifying. So from his point of view, he's still having to be very, very hard on himself indeed as he pushes the car around the course. And Goodwin's trying to hold off Molyneux. The back end stepping out for Goodwin. Hang on to it, Gary. Oh, and Molyneux's lost it as well. Goodwin catches it, but Molyneux's into the wall. Oh, dear. Molyneux trying to avoid Gary Goodwin. Chucks the car into the barriers on the exit of the S's. And that's a messy end for Dolly Molly. Meanwhile, Adam Southgate's coming out of the final corner to receive the last lap board. So Gary Goodwin is going to hang on for third position, but Molyneux, I'm fairly sure, is out of the race with a big impact. Let's watch again. Look, Molyneux tried to get up the inside of Goodwin. Goodwin held onto the car. Initially, the back end steps out. He then loses it one way and another. Molyneux slaps on it to try and get out of the way and ends up going straight into the barriers. That's the problem with Castle Combe. The barriers are so close to the edge of the racetrack, and there is nothing Molyneux can do about that one, and his race is over, and he knows it. So Adam Southgate leads the way here on the final lap at Castle Combe. This is the circuit that bites, and it really has bitten Kevin Molyneux on that occasion. So he's out of the race. Yellow flags fly at that part of the circuit as Adam Southgate comes up to lap Hupert for the second time. Such is the short and fast nature of this circuit here at Castle Combe that he's able to get up to Hupert and lap him a second time, where normally we would only lap the 924s once. We are lapping them twice, although we're only going to lap one of them once. Only one of them twice, I should say, by the look of it. because Gavin Johnson has pulled out a decent lead over Hugh Pert. So the checkered flag is going to come out for Adam Southgate. He had to work for it this time, but what a satisfying feeling it will be to win this one where there was so much to do. Checkered flag flies and Adam Southgate's winning streak in 2018 continues here at Castle Combe. Lawrence is second, from Gary Goodwin in third, from Andrew Baker in fourth, with retirements from Coleman, Hull and Harris. Molyneux was indeed excluded for his incident with Nick Hull in the opening stages, while Gavin Johnson takes the victory in front of Hugh Pert in the 924 battle. I can't wait for race 2.
Adam, to anyone looking at the result sheets, it seems like 1, 2, 3 started the same position, ended the same position, but that doesn't really show a true reflection of what happened out there.
No, it was a fairly busy race out there, to be honest with you. Yeah, so what happened? So I think Gary got me off the start because James and I had a little bit of contact, unfortunately. Kind of, nothing doing. And then it was a really good battle between James, me and Gary. James retired, I think, at suspension failure. And then Gary made a mistake, and I was lucky to take the win, to be honest with you.
Gary, tough racing out there. There was a lot going on between the three of you. Adam just got through there towards the end, but how do you cope? That was intense.
Yeah, it was, especially for me, because that's it's a new car for me this season, and it's a different car to what everyone else is running, so it's got different characteristics, and we've struggled to get it anywhere close to what everyone else is doing, but we're sort of getting there now, and yesterday was sort of testament to that, because up until then I would have never kept up with the lads. You
join me as the cars are getting ready to go out in the second of the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship races here at Castle Combe. Adam Southgate once again on pole position, but James Coleman, the only person to have taken a victory from him so far this year, starts back in 5th, but he had a fantastic race yesterday before retirement. Let's see what he can do. Right the way at the back of the box to grid is Kevin Molyneux. We weren't expecting to see him out here in the second race. He is going to be one to watch. Jake Sanson, it's over to you to take us through all of the action.
Thanks, Lloyd. This should be a cracker after the first race. Southgate and Lawrence on the front row. Goodwin and Baker are on the second row of the grid together, from James Coleman and Nick Hull, with Matthew Harris alongside Kevin Molyneux, hoping to fight back from the fourth row, with Johnson versus Pert continuing in the 924 battle. First blood to Johnson. Will Pert take a win off him in race 2? Let's find out. A cracking start from Nick Hull in the middle of the field as he tries to split the inside line. Great start from Southgate. We're on board with Gary Goodwin, and already Gary Lawrence has got a good lead over us, as has Nick Hull and James Coleman. They've moved their way forward. Nick Hull on the back there of James Coleman, who's already surged his way through into 3rd position. So a cracking start from Coleman, up from 5th to 3rd right off the bat. Southgate leads the way. 93 Gary Lawrence in 2nd place. We're on board with Gary Goodwin. Behind us is Kevin Molyneux, and we're charging after Nick Hull. So Goodwin going for another podium. They make their way through the S's for the first time in this second race. James Coleman is already starting to get a look underneath Gary Lawrence, as Nick Hull in 4th position is chasing him down. We're on board with Goodwin. That is Kevin Molyneux, so it looks as though we're going to renew our battle from the first race, as James Coleman immediately starts to get into Gary Lawrence. Molyneux diving up the inside of Gary Goodwin. Is there enough space for them both? Yes, there is, and Molyneux through. Much better from Molyneux compared to the first race, and he's up on the inside of Goodwin, up into 5th position straight off the bat. So Southgate, Lawrence, Coleman, Hull, Molyneux and Goodwin. Then it is Baker in front of Harris. So a fantastic start to the race for Adam Southgate, who's got himself into a nice lead already. Lawrence in 2nd, Coleman in 3rd. These guys are hoping to try and get up to the bat. It's early in the morning, but look at the sun beating down here at Castle Combe. Not a sun in the sky. It's going to be an absolute oven in those cars as they go on to the second lap, through Folly and up through Avon Rise. Coleman now chasing after the 93 of Gary Lawrence. Has Coleman got a problem? He was a little bit sluggish there down towards Quarry. Well, he's got himself neatly nailed there for the 93 of Gary Lawrence. He's going to try and come back at him. He's got a good exit off the turn, actually, and now he's going to dive for the inside of the S's. That's a late lunge, but Coleman has to back out of it in the end. Southgate leads. Lawrence 2nd. 3rd is Coleman. 4th is Nick Hull, looking much racier today. And he's well ahead of Kevin Molyneux and Gary Goodwin this time, as Adam Southgate continues on. Look, the light of the camera is almost blue through the sun haze. That is how hot it is here. Into Tower Corner, and still these three battle over 2nd position, as once again it's the Adam Southgate pain train up front. Nick Hull having a look on the inside of James Coleman, trying to get through the bobbies. Up on the exit and up towards Camp Corner. Frightening, fast, flat out corner this. A little blip of the throttle as they come into it, but then you can keep the power pretty much throughout. So Kevin Molyneux through in the 46. In behind him is Gary Goodwin. The leading 6 are getting away from Harrison Baker, leaving Johnson and Pert to battle away for the 924 victory once again. And here's the 00. James Coleman charging after. Adam Southgate in the lead is the second place man, Gary Lawrence, the 93. There is Southgate, no problems at all as he goes through Quarry. On the run to the S's. Oh, and Gary Lawrence has had a little moment there out of Quarry. He runs wide, and that's enough for James Coleman to start thinking about... early stage. So Coleman through bobbies. You've got to be so careful on that turning because you've got those tyres on the right side. You've got to nail the turn in absolutely right, and if you just get it slightly wrong, then that's going to cause a massive problem. You clip those, and that's a broken suspension just for starters. Through the final turn, careful on the power. As back in the lead, there is your leader, Adam Southgate. We're on board with James Coleman, chasing after the man in second place, Gary Lawrence in the 93. So Coleman looking strong at the moment, in third position, chasing after our leader, Gary Lawrence. But no problem at all for Adam Southgate, who's continuing his winning streak. This is more the sort of race domination we have expected to see from Southgate in the 2018 season. Yesterday, he really had to work for it in race 1. Now here in race 2, he's looking so much more strong. And he's way, way out in front of Gary Lawrence and James Coleman already. This is only the first half of the race, don't forget, and that lead is pretty much unassailable. There's Nick Hull in fourth position, looking to get himself back on the podium. As they drop down the rise again, out of Old Paddock Bend and up towards Tower. And again, Gary Lawrence just moving to cover James Coleman on the inside line there. That's just a statement of intent. If you try this up the inside, James, I'm all over it, mate. Don't even think about it. As they break down for bobbies. Right, left, plenty of curb on the way in and out. Nick Hull's still there in fourth position, trying to make his gains up onto the podium positions once again. As they drop down towards Camp Corner once again. A great run from these guys in second and third position as we ride on board with Nick Hull. He's going straight on. He's going to hit the barrier. Oh dear. And Nick Hull rolls it onto his roof. My goodness, that's a heavy impact. They're surely going to have to bring out the safety car for this, if not the red flags. But Nick Hull has gone straight on there at Camp Corner. Now that looks to me like it could be a brake failure. So a big problem there for Nick Hull. Well, I hope he's okay. I have a feeling we're going to get a safety car for that at the absolute minimum, because we have a car on its roof at the final turn. So there's yellow flags around the circuit. There's safety car board, and I'm not at all surprised. Well, let's just keep calm. Let's hope that Nick Hull is okay, but that was a very nasty off there and a very nasty place to go off the circuit. The good news is that he's actually gone off the circuit at the final turn, so the medical teams will be down there pretty quickly. But we're under safety car conditions here, and Gary Lawrence only just realised it, I think. Almost overshot himself at Tower. So that massive lead that Adam Southgate once had is now evaporated. But let's just hope that Nick Hull is okay. Oh, I could see him out of the car, actually. So he has got out of the car. Phew. That's all I can say. That's a very nasty moment there for the entirety of the field. So safety car is out. Medical team is going to be there to make sure he's okay. But I think what's going to be the major problem, really, is the damage to the barriers, because that's something that's going to take quite a while. So I would suspect that that's going to be a, well, this could even be a race stoppage, because there's a lot of damage to those barriers. The safety car is actually peeled back in. They've called the safety car initially, but the safety car is reversing. Red flags, yes. See, there's too much damage to the barriers. Too much damage to the barriers on the final corner, so that's going to bring out the red flags. Let's have a watch again on board with Nick Hull. He gets down to the braking zone. Look, he's slammed on the brakes. Nothing's happening. And he goes straight into the tyres, and that pitches the car over onto its roof. You can see the monstrosity of the accident. And Nick Hull is very, very lucky to get away with that one. We're under red flags. Too much damage in the final turn. The good news is that Nick Hull is okay. Battered and bruised, shaken and not stirred. But there's going to be too much damage to that car, unfortunately, to get him out for the third race. So they're going to declare the race as a result at the end of all of that. So the race is over, and that means that Adam Southgate is the winner. Once again here, he takes the victory after 5 laps. Gary Lawrence in second from James Coleman. Molyneux is fourth from Goodwin, Baker and Harris. Nick Hull, no surprises, out of the race, and I'm guessing will take no further part in race 3. Gavin Johnson takes another victory from Hugh Pert to close up the championship standings in the 924 class. But thank goodness Nick Hull is okay.
Adam, another victory. We're going to run out of things to say after these interviews, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit. It's getting a little bit embarrassing, isn't it? No, in that race, I think Gary tried a different setup on his car and try and make it more stable through the chicanes. Didn't really work for him, so it was quite an easy march for me. My car was performing absolutely perfectly this morning. The cold weather's helping, but this afternoon, it's going to be so hot.
James, a tough race for you yesterday coming back to the series, but you've made up for it there, third place.
Yeah, no, happy with third. I think we could have finished a bit higher up, but obviously Nick had a really bad one, so they brought the safety car out, which was expected, and they red flagged it. They weren't going to sort that out, which was a shame because Adam and Gaz in front of me, their cars were just starting to go off and mine was just starting to come in. So, yeah, a bit annoyed about that, but just hope Nick's all right, to be honest.
It's the final race here at Castle Combe in the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. Reverse grid for this race. It's going to be exciting to see how Adam Southgate can make it through the pack. It's over to Jake Sanson to take you through the action.
When isn't the reverse grid race the most exciting of the weekend? Well, they've got a lot to live up to race one, I have to say. Matthew Harris and Andrew Baker on the front row of the grid from Gary Goodwin and Kevin Molyneux. James Coleman, Gary Lawrence and Adam Southgate are next as Nick Hull takes no further part in the meeting with a damaged car. Hugh Pert and Gavin Johnson on the 924 grid together. This will be an interesting one as we charge away from the grid straight away. We're on board with Gary Goodwin. Kevin Molyneux immediately makes his bid for the lead. Watch James Coleman. He's surging his way forward straight off the bat and he's going to get alongside the 99. Coleman leads already. He's got past Matthew Harris and is into the lead. So we ride on board with Adam Southgate. That's going to be Harris to our left side that we fly past. Gary Lawrence is through in a second. So Coleman through to the lead. Lawrence through to second. He drifts out wide. Very, very, very wide. Careful, Gary. Get back on. Goodness me. He was lucky to get out of the barriers at Quarry as we ride on board with Gavin Johnson. Chasing after Hugh Pert one more time. But incredibly, it is Coleman versus Southgate in first and second places. This is meant to be a reverse grid race. It's meant to take a few laps to get into that position, not 3 corners. We're on board with Southgate, chasing after James Coleman, the only man to have taken a win off him in 2018. And Coleman looks likely to be challenging for that again in this one. Molyneux third, Goodwin in fourth. Up to fifth comes Lawrence. Gets his way back up the inside of Harris, but he looks like he's going to drift wide through the hairpin. We're on board with Gavin Johnson, who's caught back up to the tail of Hugh Pert. Hugh Pert took his first race victory in the championship earlier in the season, and now he is battling for the lead of the championship. He leads the title race at the moment, but Gavin Johnson has got a good run on him as they come up through Bobby's. On through the gears again. This is going to be a really interesting battle. Coleman is your leader, Southgate second, Molyneux third from Goodwin, Lawrence, Harris and Baker. And as they charge up the straight over Avon Rise once again, Adam Southgate trying to line up James Coleman for a pass as they come up towards Quarry. In through the right-hander. The two leaders are already stretching out an advantage over Kevin Molyneux, but can Gary Lawrence charge his way back to third position? That's the next big question. As Adam Southgate chases after James Coleman in the lead of the race. They power through the S's. And Adam Southgate already giving James Coleman some pressure. This has been a pretty flawless season for Adam Southgate. All he's got to do now is get onto the back of James Coleman and charge after him once more. He's gaining a lot of ground already on the 00. Speaking of which, battling for the lead in the 924s, Gavin Johnson is making up a lot of ground on Hugh Pert, and it looks as if a pass for the lead is almost going to be inevitable here at Combe. He's got a good run off of the chicane up towards Tower. Can he find a way through on the inside? Well, he's going to break a little bit later than Pert, but not late enough. Pert is going to leave him space. That's the gentlemanly approach. But he's not able to overhaul him yet, Gavin Johnson. This battle could go on a long time between these two. Johnson has taken 2 wins off of Hugh Pert already this weekend. And it looks like he could get another one off him. But he's going to have to be patient if he wants to find a way through. We're back on board as they come up towards camp. Into the final turn. And these two are even closer together as they battle for the lead overall. James Coleman and Adam Southgate battling away. We're on board with Southgate in the Avis Consulting car. Up towards the S's. In through the right-hander. Oh, Southgate having to be a little bit careful there on the brakes as he keeps in there behind James Coleman. He's working incredibly hard to push onto the back of the 00. Meanwhile, Molyneux in third position behind them. There's Southgate as he goes up and over the curbs. Great racing indeed between these two. Southgate actually very nearly puts 2 wheels on the grass there in his attempts to close up on James Coleman. But the 00 leads the way here, for the moment at least. But this is what happened in race 1. He was leading comfortably, and then a mechanical problem crept in and ruined his race and effectively ended any chance that James Coleman might have had of battling for the championship in 2018. But James Coleman is a racer, he's a fighter, he's not going to give up a chance of a victory, and he's got a great one this time. But Adam Southgate is the man battling him. Look, Adam's having to be so careful through the final turn. You can hear the car chirruping away with those tyres screeching and squealing as he got the car stopped through the apex. And now Johnson pulling up alongside Hugh Pert. Is that for the lead? Well, Pert defends beautifully. These are the two drivers who will fight for the 924 Championship in 2018. And still, Southgate hanging on in front of Adam Southgate, who is basically one hand on the trophy for the championship at the moment. He just needs to keep on pounding in these podiums. He's had a victory in every race bar one this year, and that's Lawrence back into third. Lawrence has crept back into third position past Molyneux and Goodwin. So Gary Lawrence has continued his incredible pace here at Castle Combe and managed to get past first Goodwin, then Kevin Molyneux. So it looks like 3 straight podiums this weekend are coming the way of Gary Lawrence, who's had an absolutely superb run here at Castle Combe. It's a real fast driver circuit this, so you've got to be absolutely on it through the entirety of. I don't think Dolly Molly's going to give up a chance of third position without a fight, but there's going to be an amazing battle between these guys as they continue to charge forward. So through they come one more time. There's Molyneux through Bobby's and up towards the run towards camp. So Molyneux still pushing hard, but Gary Lawrence hazing in the sunshine there in third position, doing a fantastic job. And there's Gary Goodwin back in 5th position. Got a podium earlier in the weekend, so he can be happy with the silverware he takes home from that. But this is not quite the same sort of pace he wanted from this third race. He's letting Lawrence and Molyneux go pretty rapidly. But Coleman still hanging on here in front of Adam Southgate as they battle for the victory. Great racing from them still as they come out of quarry. Down the stretch, up towards the S's. We're on board again with Southgate as he charges after Coleman. The 00 in front of us through the S's. Southgate's looking pretty strong as he closes in on Coleman. He's made up a lot of time through the chicane there as they come through Old Paddock Bend. Southgate working very hard indeed on the back of James Coleman as they come up towards Tower. He looks like he's got a chance here to go for the lead on the inside of the right-hander, but no, Coleman squeezes him out of the chance. He's too close to the middle of the circuit, tightens in on the apex. There's no way he's going to come through there. As Coleman again works very hard indeed there to keep Adam Southgate at bay. He's using a lot more curve than Adam Southgate, I notice actually. James Coleman pushing very hard indeed. But look, he places the car just slightly further across to the right on the approach to quarry, then gets the car lined up for the normal racing line as usual. But it's just enough to keep Adam Southgate a little bit on his toes here. Southgate's got a good run off the final turn though. This could be his best chance yet of going for the lead. He goes left because so is Gary Lawrence. Southgate chasing him down big style into Bobby's, into the right, into the left. Plenty of curb on the way in and on the way out. And he's come from a bit of a distance back with momentum and with speed. So Lawrence is going to have to be ultra defensive here. And again, he does exactly what he needs to. Pulls across to the right, then pulls back across to the left to get his braking zone lined up for camp. Now back on the power. This is where he's going to need to be incredibly careful. Once again, he sends Southgate to the left side. You've got to do that if you're going to hold on to the lead here at this point of the circuit. Then he pulls back across to the left side. Nothing Southgate can do except follow him. Now watch as they come over the top of Avon Rise. Watch the steering wheel. Into the right-hander. Got to get it lined up nicely, and that's much smoother from Southgate. He doesn't get quite so out of his rhythm as James Coleman is lapping the 924s. So at the moment, no major problems and no major issues as Southgate laps Johnson, who is now in the lead of the race in the 924s, and Lawrence again having to keep Southgate at bay. The Avis Consulting car is absolutely all over the place trying to get past Gary Lawrence. He looks left, he looks right, he goes down the middle, there's no way through. And Lawrence is being incredibly strong and resolute in that second place. Coleman is your leader. Here's the battle for second place behind the 924 leading battle of Johnson and Pert. So there's Lawrence and there's Southgate. Lawrence with the orange wheel rings, Southgate with the orange and white car. So here they come. Let's have a look at Southgate as he makes his move up the inside of Hugh Pert. Well, Lawrence has already got there. Southgate having to leave his a little bit late. And look, you see the way that he had to basically back out of the throttle to complete the overtake. and that's given Lawrence a little bit of momentum. They're going to sweep by Gavin Johnson. This is the speed difference between a Porsche Boxster 987 and a Porsche 924. That is the speed difference right there. You saw it in a perfect demonstration over Avon Rise, as James Coleman in the 00 leads the way, and he's getting close to lapping Kevin Molyneux. Now, what has happened to Molyneux? Because he is a long way back and is in danger of being lapped by the race leader. Now, I didn't see what happened to Molyneux, but he was in the battle for 4th position at one stage. So I would suspect that he's had an off somewhere, and that's definitely compromised him. There's the race leader, Gavin Johnson. Coleman puts his arm out and thanks Kevin Molyneux for getting out of the way. So all in all, this has been a bit of a nightmare weekend for Kevin Molyneux after the glory of Rockingham. So hopefully he can get it back together again for the next round of the championship. But Adam Southgate running beautifully at this phase of the race, and is looking pretty strong. Lawrence in second place is going to be incredibly difficult to overtake in his current form. He is not going to leave anything to chance as Molyneux gets out of the way and lets these guys through no problem. So they come out of Camp Corner once again, down the start-finish straight. Adam Southgate again trying to get that gap down to Gary Lawrence as close as he possibly can. But this is not going to be easy, and he knows it. He's got to work incredibly hard to find a way past. But that is your race leader. It's been a very exciting weekend for Coleman, not necessarily for the right reasons in race 1. And race 2 was frustrating. But this is much more like it. This is the way he wanted it to go, as Southgate again tries to close up on Gary Lawrence. He's so quick through the S's. That's where he's able to gain a lot of time on Lawrence. The difficulty he's really got is that these straights are not long enough for him to continue his run to charge up alongside Lawrence and then get into the next corner. That's why he's not really able to get on terms with Lawrence, because the straights are not long enough. Well, that is not going to be a problem as they go to the next round of the championship at Anglesey, where there are masses of long straights pretty much everywhere around the circuit. Tight and twisty it's going to be, and very, very exciting it will be too around the Toy Crease circuit. Here's Adam Southgate on the back of Gary Lawrence. What a weekend this has thrown up here at Castle Combe. We've had all of the excitement and all of the thrills and spills you can cram into a Porsche Championship weekend. That first race, one of the best races I have seen in the championship. All sorts of thrills and spills, lots of chaos, and quite a bit of carnage actually. Second race, cut short unfortunately by Nick Hull's trip into the barriers. I can report that he is okay. His car isn't, but he is all right, and that is the good news. And this third race has been a very intriguing one, in which we've seen Adam Southgate pressured into a very, very rare mistake in 2018. Blink and you miss it, and he's there in third position, with James Coleman now leading, Gary Lawrence in second. If Adam Southgate stays where he is, this will be his lowest finish of 2018 though, which just goes to show how strong his 2018 championship campaign has been. If I could walk away from a championship saying the lowest I've finished all season is third, I'd be very happy with it, to be honest. And I think Southgate's going to have that same reaction. A little bit of frustration, but I think he'll wipe it off very, very quickly. If it stays like this, Gary Lawrence is hanging on in the final stages of this race at Castle Combe. And it looks to me as though Hugh Johnson is going to get a clean sweep of victories in front of Hugh Pert. And by my mathematics, if that stays that way in the 924 class, then Gavin Johnson is going to close in on Hugh Pert's championship lead with only 2.5 points between him and Hugh Pert in the Drivers' Championship, which is going to be very exciting heading to Anglesey, where we'll hopefully have a few more of the 924s out there. Been a bit of a difficult weekend, this one, for the 924s. You can hear Adam Southgate there in the 45, actually on the limiter as he comes up towards Avon Rise. You could hear that little growling noise from the engine. That is him hitting the limiter as he goes up towards the braking zone for Quarry, which you basically enter into at Avon Rise. So it's a heavy braking zone, and you have to brake from a long, long way back. Southgate right over the back of Lawrence. Lawrence again defending. He's got to at this point as they head towards Tower, because Southgate is all over the back of Lawrence and wants to at least snatch second position if he can't get the win, and he's running out of time to do that. He's now got to hope basically that the gates align and the seas open in the same way that they did in race 1, with Coleman dropping out of the race and then Lawrence going wide. But I don't think that's going to happen this time. Adam Southgate looks like he's going to have to settle for third position for once as he chases after Gary Lawrence with the orange wheel rims as they come out of the final turn and onto the next lap. This has been a great race, a great run for Gary Lawrence. He's had a fantastic weekend here at Castle Combe and a big points haul, which should see him close up on Kevin Molyneux in the Drivers' Championship tally. There you go, you heard it there again, bouncing off the rev limiter, Adam Southgate. And that just shows you how hard he's pushing. Oh, and he's run wide! I'm sorry, Adam, but that's 2 mistakes this weekend. Never mind this season. Adam Southgate pushing very hard on the back of Gary Lawrence, and I'm afraid to say that that has pretty much put the kibosh on it now. Third position will have to do. Goodness me, I never thought I'd live to see the day Adam Southgate dropped it, not once but twice in one race, never mind one weekend, never mind one championship season. 2018 has been flawless for him, but I guess even the best can make mistakes as James Coleman continues out on his own, leading the way comfortably here in his final run. And this has been exactly what he wanted to do. He's going to take the victory and finally get a second win of the season. And that's 2 races this year that Adam Southgate hasn't taken the win. He comes out of the final turn, James Coleman, and will receive the last lap board this time by. So James Coleman finally is about to take, he gets a wave there as he comes through. Now that is going to be, I'm not sure who he's waving to there, but whatever you do, James, you're not supposed to wave on the final lap. Oh, that's who he's waving to, Kevin Molyneux. He waves to Molyneux, who gets out of the way. He's got mechanical problems, and he's lapped Molyneux for the 2nd time. So I think Molyneux, sadly, is about to retire from the race. Meanwhile, Southgate has caught right up to the back of Gary Lawrence once again, who is still desperately trying to hang on in front of Adam Southgate as they battle for 2nd place on the last lap. Has he got enough time? Southgate is pushing big time. Back on the power, but James Coleman leads the way. And he's going to take his 2nd win of the season. All he's got to do is hang on to it. Nice and smooth, James. This makes up for the heartbreak of Rockingham. This makes up for the heartbreak of race 1. Coleman's had a miserable season. He deserves some glory. He deserves a positive race result. And a victory here at Castle Combe is proof of what he can do. He's put on a fantastic run this weekend. Taken away from him the victory in race 1, but this time he gets to bask in the glory, and he knows it. He flashes his lights. He's done enough. He knows it. Checkered flag flies, and James Coleman finally takes a win off Adam Southgate. Gary Lawrence in 2nd, Southgate in 3rd. He eases right off the power. Oh well, Adam, at least you got on the podium. Good win in 4th place in front of Matthew Harris and Andrew Baker, with Kevin Molyneux having mechanical problems down there in 7th position. But at least he finished the race, with Gavin Johnson beating Hugh Pert for the 3rd time in a row. Really exciting battles there. And now what does that do in the Drivers' Championship standings? Well, of course, Adam Southgate still leads the way. Molyneux has been caught quite considerably by Lawrence, who's only 7 points back. Hull and Coleman struggled with a couple of DNFs. Ludford is still 6th in front of Baker and Jesse Chamberlain, who we hope will be back in time for Anglesey. In the 924s, Hugh Pert is just 2.5 points ahead of Gavin Johnson, with Rossin, Styron, Jones and Waters still in the top 6 as we head to Toy Crees in Anglesey in North Wales.
James, congratulations on your victory. 2 wins this year. It's starting to pick a bit of pace up now. We're coming to the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, love the circuit here. Really quick in testing. Not a bad qualifying. Tickle behind Adam. So yeah, we knew we were quick here. It was all about tyre management this weekend, where it being so hot. So yeah, really glad we got a win in the end. Tough few laps with Adam. He gave me a good race. Then he made a mistake, span. And I just took it easy for the rest of the race, which is what I needed because it was really hot out there, so just slowed it all down.
Gary, that was a tough 2nd half of the race. How did you keep Adam Southgate behind you?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I mentioned earlier in that first race we made some changes which didn't work, and we went back to where we were, and they certainly did. It was pretty much the same as yesterday. Unfortunately, going into Quarry on the first lap, I got a little bit excitable and went onto the grass, so I had to then go from the back again, having started from the back, which gave the lads a bit of time to sort of put a bit of space into me. When I finally got sort of on the back, well, not even on the back of them, when I was behind them, Adam had a bit of an incident out the back there, which enabled me to take him, and then it was just a case of holding him off the entire race. It was a longer. I remember coming past here with 5 minutes. I thought, I can't believe that. It feels like we've been going for an hour already.